Was around trying to understand what motivates consumers to do what they do. In that case, why did someone drink Foster's beer instead of a Heineken or a Carlsberg? So there's a lot of behavioural psychology involved in consumer products. And I wanted to understand from a technologist's point of view why people made those choices. And solar is one of those choices that we inherently have as individuals. Do we believe, why are we doing it? Is it because it gives us independence from corporates? Is it because we believe we're doing the right thing in this world by reducing our carbon footprint? So these are the things that get us very excited as a company. And part of that journey was coming back here to Australia to restructure a company for Honeywell. Honeywell's an American company that does a lot of work in air conditioning, commercial building automation systems. They own multiple companies around the world that do this. So I came back to Australia to restructure one of their companies. It wasn't doing so well. And it got me into the world of commercial building automation and energy efficiency. So I became a government accredited auditor for the NABERS rating system, which is now mandatory for commercial buildings in Australia above 2,000 square metres. You have to have a NABERS rating to sell it or lease the space. And there's a lot of parallels in industrial, commercial and the residential world as to what we can do as individuals. It's just not all about the technology. One of the motivations to come back to Australia was around the time when Al Gore was around with his climate change movie. And Australia was the first Western country that had a change of political parties, where one party was saying this is real, and the other party said, no, let's just keep digging holes. It didn't work out that well. The implementation plan sucked, basically, but there was a GFC in the middle. But it really came down to, as individuals, we didn't have the tools in front of us to be able to make those decisions ourselves. We were relying on governments to do it for us. That doesn't always work out, as we know. So let's see if we can turn on a bit of technology. So what we've focused on as a company is unlocking that intelligence so that we know what's going on in our own home. Because we get these horrible bills that come in our door. Sometimes it takes 3 months for them to come in. They don't tell us that the electric water heater's been, the thermostat's broken and I've been consuming power like crazy. They don't tell us the things that we need to know that we can react on. And in that process of thinking about this, we realise that there's a lot of hidden intelligence in the electricity and the way that we consume it in our homes. And because of that, we've been able to work out how to save money, potentially lives, our family, and reduce our carbon footprint, where we're actually getting paid to do it. And this is a full cycle, holistic view of what we can do as individuals. But we've heard this all before. This has been going on for 40 years. There's a few people old enough in the room to know the Jetsons. Hanna-Barbera cartoon, everything was going to be fantastic. The world was going to be automated. We were going to have great lives. It hasn't happened yet. Part of that reason is to do this, you've actually got to have intelligent appliances. If you don't know what each individual appliance is doing, how can you react to it? Your electricity's gone up. Where? Why? What's going on? So these are the issues that we've worked on solving. And we want to know right now what we can do. So for us, the intelligent home is being told what to do if it doesn't do it by itself. Because we don't have smart appliances today, the best switch in the world is still the human finger, if you can tell it what to do at the right time. So a couple of examples like this. Grandma didn't get up and have a cup of tea this morning, like she always does between 7 and 8. Give her a call and see if she's okay. There's a family safety thing. You can buy your electricity cheaper from somewhere else. Does anyone in the room know how to calculate their electricity against all of these oddball plans and systems that are presented to us? I can't. You've got to be a maths genius to work out where you can get a better deal. I'd like to know when I turn on an appliance that's going to cost me a lot of money because someone went and put me on a time of use tariff. And I can't quite work out when peak and off peak is. Do I have it on a Saturday or is it just on a Monday? These are not well publicised things, and they're all about the industry reducing their risk. We heard earlier on about, the retailers don't want to take on risk for solar projects. Same thing. Market prices change on electricity, and that's a risk that retailers are wearing at the moment. So they want time of use meters to be able to shift the risk down to the end user. Your problem, not ours. We're going to charge you more. As consumers, we don't understand those things. A lot of people don't. So the ability to get real-time information on your smartphone that we all have these days is quite empowering. As long as it's personalised for me. I don't want to know about what's happening in your house or in the suburb of Ultimo, generally, but I do want to know if there's a faulty appliance or there's an opportunity for me to save money. I kind of like to be compared against others too, to know that I am doing the right thing and I'm winning. We all have a competitive streak in us. So, we've worked out pretty quickly that the reason none of this can happen is because we don't have real-time data. Smart meters aren't actually that smart. They're just a smart cash register. They only load their data up once a day. And it's only for billing purposes. It's how much we're going to send you a bill for. Not how to help you save money and where to save money. So, the obvious source for us was the very device that you're getting billed from. Why don't we take real-time data from that meter? So rather than having to get an electrician to wire in complicated extra metering equipment, let's invent a technology that a consumer can install in a couple of minutes. So my little red dot works. So if you see here, this is essentially a little camera that's stuck on the front of the meter. And it works on the old analog meters with the spinning disc or the new electronic meters with a flashing LED. That sounds pretty simple, I'm going to get a reading of what's going on. So how do we get that data to be useful? We have to get it up to the internet these days. So we said, great, let's use Wi-Fi to get this data out in real time because it's a very low cost communications channel. 3G is very expensive, 4G is very expensive. And ironically, there's rarely a PowerPoint in your power meter box, which means you're going to have to get an electrician in to install any sort of monitoring equipment. We said, no, for a consumer device, it's got to be out of the box, on the wall and working. So we've created a Wi-Fi device that runs on full batteries for a year. And when it's getting close to battery change time, you get a message on your mobile saying, time to change the battery. You can also plug it into the PowerPoint if you've got power, but this is like saying your smartphone is going to last for a year on one charge. It's a very unique technology that we've created and patented. So, how does that work for solar and storage? Pretty much the same. A little more complicated because there's lots of different meters out there. I had the unfortunate task of ringing an electricity company this week. I'll leave them nameless, to ask them why they had changed my meter without my approval. They decided to come along under the new power of choice laws to change my meter to something that was good for them. Didn't ask if it was good for me. And they configured that meter differently than the one that was there before. So these are the things that consumers need to be quite aware of. where the electricity industry doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart. Fortunately, we've invented a tech that works on anything. So where necessary, and solar is one of those where necessary things, you want to know exactly what your solar is generating. We took the old clip-on transformer that you do need to get an electrician to install in Australia, and digitised it into a very accurate digital meter. So nice little electronics inside the cable. That means that instead of just getting a bill or having some type of monitoring system on your solar, we're able to put all that data together and tell you exactly where you can save money in real time, how to change your behaviour to optimise your use of solar and your storage if you've got it. And this is all done with an area of software engineering called machine learning systems, where the systems are autonomous and they learn automatically how to improve things for you. We're quite often faced with having to look at very technical information, watts and kilowatts, and what does that all mean to the average consumer? Not a lot. How much is it going to cost me? So we put all of the tariff plans, all the providers, including your network charges, all in the machine learning. And it works out for you how to optimise your solar performance from a point of view of appliance use. So it'll tell you where you've been good, it'll tell you where you've been bad. So over here you're being a little bad at the moment because you're net importing. A lot of this is behind behavioural research, which uses motion and colours to motivate people to react. When you're saving, and if you haven't worked it out, this is a pendulum view, so if you're to the left, things are good. If you're to the right, things are not so good. So you can see in real time if it is a good time to be doing your clothes drying, or your washing, or your dishwashing. Even at the point where the system will tell you, if you start your clothes washing cycle at 11 o'clock, it will optimise the use of your solar by starting it at that time. When the washing finishes, you'll get a message saying washing's finished, time to put it in the dryer. So it's pre-calculated based on the weather forecast, based on regular usage, when is the best time to do things. Because we still have dumb appliances at home. And we're going to have them for a long time. Because they're expensive to replace. Unfortunately, I get this message a lot at home. I've got an inverter that keeps disconnecting from the grid. Faulty, it's the third one. Apparently I'm living in a street that has a very bad circuit and it won't synchronise onto the grid. So I get a real-time message on my mobile saying go and reset the inverter, and sure enough I'm back on the grid again. So these are the things you can do only if you have real-time information. So I mentioned appliance detection. So from the single data point we're getting from reading the meter, we're able to tell what appliances are turning on and off inside the house. I get asked a lot, how do you do that? Essentially think that if you stuck a meter on every appliance in your house and you had a graph of the power use of that appliance, then you stacked all those graphs on top of each other, that's the data you get on your power meter, your instantaneous power use. And the machine learning software that we've developed pulls that apart again into the individual graphs and tells us in real time the appliance is turning on and off. So that's a little bit too much for our device to do on batteries, so we send the data up to the cloud and it does a bit of calculations and out pop all the appliances and tells us exactly what's being turned on and off inside the house. And then we get those great messages that are able to tell us in terms of appliances turning on and off. You can even set your own alerts. You can say, tell me if the iron's been left on when I leave home. Or tell me if the bathroom heater is being left on for a long period of time, longer than usual. So the system's able to automatically do that. Now everyone talks about the smart home and switching things on and off. We're not there yet. But we did build into the technology the capability of linking through the three major tech platforms that are now starting to come to market from Amazon, Apple and Google, where appliance manufacturers will start to connect their appliances to these platforms. And then we're able to talk through those platforms to get to the individual appliances. And it all merges together in the same system. Based on, do I want to save money? Do I want to reduce my carbon footprint? Do I want to improve my home safety, or all of the above? So the system provides the brains and the logic behind that. Then we have happy people, because we're all getting a much better life sitting at home, knowing exactly what's happening in real time in our lives, and that we do have that control and the tools at hand to be able to make those decisions. This is what motivates us. We worked out very quickly that with 1 million homes, we're going to be saving 10 million tonnes of carbon emissions, like helping people reduce their waste, moving them towards a more sustainable energy future. And it's pretty major, because that's $2.3 billion of money that's not going to be going into corporate retail pockets. It's going to be back in the pockets of the consumers to empower them to be able to take charge of their energy future. And that's when I started to talk about the holistic view that we take, is that we've never been able to put the dollars and cents together and make those choices. I want to do the right thing, but not if it costs money. So the whole idea of Wattcost is to facilitate that money transfer so that you can make the right decisions. And it doesn't cost you a dime. So that's a little bit about us. One of the areas that we do work with, which I don't know if anyone's in the room, is that we're always looking for partners to work with. Because our specialty is in data analysis and putting the information in front of people. So part of what we work with is, for example, we can run each house's data against all of the plans from all of the retailers and leaderboard it. And in the mobile application, you can just one button switch to say, change me to those guys because they got a better deal. It calculates the exit prices, the entry discounts, all of those things. So instead of you having to manually go through and work out if I'm getting screwed or not, I can tell you probably are, then this is a way of making that change. If you don't have solar, it'll tell you what's the optimum solar system for you, and or battery storage system, and how long is going to be the ROI based on your use at home, with the forecast of if you've changed your behaviour to optimise the use of your solar, this will be the added benefit. We also work with appliance companies, only if they have 5-star and better appliances. So where we see someone's refrigerator breaking down, not working so efficiently, we'll make a recommendation for a more energy efficient fridge and what the payback period will be. And then our fourth partner that we're working with at the moment is a company called Green Fleet, and they plant trees. So you can go completely carbon neutral with all the savings you're making at the front end to go carbon neutral as an individual. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Wattcost.
Thank you very much, David. Now we have time for a few questions. Yes, let's start.
What sort of privacy agreement do you have with that personal data of the...
So we're very much on the consumer side. It's your data. It's an opt-in, not an opt-out, unlike the meter I just had installed last week. And even we have to ask your approval to analyse the data. So it's your data, has to be. Anything behind the meter where it's private, it's real time, we don't think that belongs in the hands of corporates. Obviously we anonymise it and aggregate it to get some statistics around it, but the individual data, not ours.
What do you need to charge each home per year to run a service like that?
So the hardware is a one-time purchase, and that'll give you house level information for free forever. The appliance detection system and real-time notification system, that'll be around $5 a month for that service. And then obviously the marketplaces, we get some affiliate referral fees for passing on that information at the customer's request.
So you said there's a one-time fee for the product.
Yep.
Is that something you're able to disclose?
I can tell you that. It's on our website. So the basic product for a regular house is $199 Australian, $149 US. For a solar, you get extra sensors, and that's a $299 product. I actually have something here about that. Yeah. So $199 for the starter, which is one sensor, just for a regular house. $299 for the solar version. And we're going to offer solar council members a 20% discount on that.
So effectively, your device is making the smart meter
Done.
a smart. Well, it's making. We've got dumb meters. You're effectively.
Yeah. One of
outsource that.
our American customers is one of the biggest distributors in America. He quoted a phrase which I like to repeat here. So you make smart meters look really dumb. And
Our government regulation makes them dumb, and your product makes them smart. It's
something like
what
that,
it
yeah.
needs to be.
So, and this is the paradox, that electricity meters are not designed to help people save money.
No, in Australia.
Yeah. You know, in some parts of the world that are a little more progressive, they go and stick Wi-Fi in the thing, and you do get a real-time feed out of it. But that's, you know, it's a price-sensitive issue when people roll out meters. We saw what happened in Victoria. Ended up costing 3 times more than originally budgeted.
Or dumb meters.
For not so smart meters, and now everyone has the privilege of paying $90 a year for something that has got very little benefit.
So I saw a product which was that you actually have to stick a Wi-Fi signal on every power point.
Yep.
Effectively, you're saying you've done away with that technology.
You don't need to put individual dongles around the house, so it's just the one data point that we pull in.
You can disaggregate it from that.
Yeah.
How do you get the Wi-Fi?
From the meter box to the house.
Well, no, that's easy, but how do you get from the house to the internet? Via the phone or via their router and internet service?
Right, so everything's done through the cloud. So the beacon device
How do
talks.
you get to the cloud?
Right, so the beacon device, we call it, has Wi-Fi in it, and the mobile app, when you install it, it's all on the mobile application. It comes up and says pick your home network. So you just select your network, put in a password, and that tells the beacon to talk to your home network.
Okay.
Right. There's an external antenna, which we recommend you stick on a window for best reception, but it has a power tracker on the mobile, so you can actually see where the best signal is to put the antenna. Then it just works through your home Wi-Fi network. Where you don't have access to a home Wi-Fi network, there's now plenty of public Wi-Fi networks around that you can, if you're a Telstra internet person, you can connect onto their air network. And then everything is done through the cloud from there. So what you see on your mobile comes down from the cloud. So as long as you've got an internet connection, you can see everything.
How long does it take to learn? I mean, so it's machine learning. How long does it take to learn, or how long do I have to spend?
Right.
So
you don't
I've
need
got
to
a
train
grandma
it.
that takes a cup of tea.
So you don't need to train it. That's the big difference with the tech that we've developed. Actually, the inventor is sitting here, Tel, my colleague. So he's a data scientist who's invented this technology. Most machine learning systems you need to manually train. So what we've done is we've pre-trained them for the major appliances in the house. So a fridge is a fridge is a fridge, a washing machine is a washing machine is a washing machine. It initially starts about 80% accurate for that particular appliance. So you just on the mobile app go, I've got a dishwasher, a washing machine, a pool pump, tick, 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 tick. The machine learning models are applied for each of those appliances. And then after about 3, 4, sometimes 5 uses of that appliance, it's got it up above 95, heading towards 99% accuracy by itself. If it runs into something that it hasn't seen before, it pops up a message saying, hey, watch this turn on, and then it learns automatically from that what that is. So we're not chasing everything, we're not chasing light bulbs necessarily, we're chasing the things that will cost you money if they're used incorrectly, left on. Or fire danger, heaters. Women seem to leave hair curlers and hair straighteners on a lot in their bathroom when they get to work and go, did I leave the... these silent air conditioners are ridiculous these days. You have no idea whether they're on or off. So now, being able to just simply play your mobile and see that appliance is on or off is a really satisfying thing.
Brilliant. Let's restrict ourselves to 3 more questions before we break up for tonight. We've got time afterwards for a bit of a discussion over snacks. Yes, please.
I should have done
You said
and there it is.
There was a savings, so you extrapolated from a million households to 10 million tonnes of CO2. So what are the underlying assumptions per household on cost and emission savings?
Yeah, it depends on your source of energy, obviously, and different states have different profiles on their carbon use. So coal in Victoria is a lot more expensive from a carbon footprint point of view than the coal that we use in New South Wales.
Well, you've aggregated it up.
Oh, we've aggregated it, yeah.
So if you go backwards, what are the underlying assumptions for those 1 million households?
It's the government published data on how much carbon emissions and type 1 and type 2 category of CO2e emissions from on a state-by-state basis. It's published every year, it's updated every year. So that's how we calculate what you reduce your electricity use.
So what's the assumption of how much electricity decrease you've got with your
so
system?
the baseline. So we start with a baseline by generally asking people to put in their historical data. So a year is good, but the last bill's okay. We create a baseline day rate for what you're responsible for before you start with us, and then we take it from there. So the savings calculation comes from there, the carbon saving comes from there.
Yes, but on an individual household, you've made an assumption for 1 million households you're going to get, so that's 10 tonnes of CO2 saving per household. So if you just go backwards, what's the cost saving associated with that aggregated across?
In dollar terms?
Yeah.
Well, that's the $2.3 billion.
Yes.
How much is a house going to save, I think is the question.
Right.
Typical house.
Typical house can save anywhere from 20 to 30% from where they are today. Give you a classic case, it's a bit outrageous. One of our houses that we've had it on had an outrageous bill of $7,400 for 3 months. It was a big house. We got it down below $4,000 for the 3 months. So he's knocked over $3,000 off his bill in 3 months.
Is he growing marijuana?
But we've seen this repeatedly in Northern Territory. We ran some tests up there. People leave, they have like 10 air conditioners in their house. Old rust buckets running 24/7, They have no idea what it costs when they go down the street for some takeaway, how much energy they're burning. So by putting that in front of them, it was remarkable how much they changed their behaviour. We had people with pools. They were running their pool pumps 12 hours a day. Because the pool guy told me I had to. Right? Guess what? His neighbours weren't. They were on 5 hours. So by being able to put those comparisons in front of people, saying 5 hours is enough, let's reprogram your pool pump. These are the sorts of things that come out of the data, which are really interesting.
In the very back.
Households. Is this applicable to, say, higher rises where there may be 100, 150 units, where they have a common air conditioning unit as well?
Yeah, it's apartments are a little bit different because generally they'll have a common meter box down in the basement, but they'll have a fuse box up in the apartment. So we can't generally stick the sensor on the meter unless it's done through the corporate, where they'll put in a Wi-Fi connection and we can string up all of the apartments in the cabinet. So that's where the CT comes in. You just zip it on the cable coming up from your meter into your fuse box and you get the same result. You can't control things like common air conditioning, but a lot of them are on different fan units now that you do get charged for individually. And it is around helping people change their behaviour, but also to reduce their wastage. So, you know, if you do leave something on, the system will take that you've left it on, and this is what it's costing you.
Where you've got more than one item running, you know, the washing machine, the oven, and so forth.
Yep.
If you're trying to get shoulder rather than high, does your machine language over time work that out from the power?
Yeah, very much, because it knows cycle times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
it knows cycle times. It knows the cost of running those appliances across periods. So if you start a dryer in off-peak in the morning, but it runs into peak during the day, you want to know about that. You know, so it is about, this is why the real-time nature is quite good. You know, one of our test houses, they continually flick the dishwasher on at 7 o'clock at night at the most expensive peak rate. You know, so they get a message sent to them saying, hey, delay that until 9 o'clock until you're on off-peak, and you'll save $96 a year.
Yeah, but they've probably got the oven on at the same time, so.
Yeah, the system disaggregates those, right? So it does work out the individual appliances. That's the beauty of machine learning, is that it's able to zero in and find those individual appliances. But it's a very special software technique that's involved in doing this, and it's something we've been developing for a couple of years.
When you say, like, I assume it's sort of it's working out, like, if it gets a certain figure of energy use, it works out basically what group of appliances is going to give that total figure. And the minute that sort of moves, it's got to be another group of appliances. Is it something along those sort of lines?
I knew someone was going to ask this question. So you've got to think about the use of energy, just not in the instantaneous, but in the time domain. Right? So something like a washing machine goes through cycles. A dryer isn't just on all the time. It has a heating element that turns on and off with the thermostat. So these are the things over time that machine learning is able to learn. And it generally, in our case, needs 3 or 4 data points to be able to go, that's the closed dryer. Now, by data point, we mean every time your disk spins and we get the black mark, or the LED flashes on your meter. So what this is, in a very complex sort of form, is you have your meter up here, or your circuits, with our beacon device sending up the data through the Wi-Fi, and we have a huge big data pipeline and databases where each of these engines are doing different things. So one's calculating your cost in carbon. One's looking at your budget. If you say I only want to spend $100 a month on electricity, so the system will send more notifications if you're going to blow your budget. Solar Optimizer is looking for ways for you to change your appliance use to match your solar system, to optimize it so that you're not exporting and getting paid 6 cents. You're actually using it and saving 50 cents from buying it from the grid. Appliance detection is another machine learning system, and then the third-party marketplace is where we link up with people like electricity retail switching and solar quoting and planting trees to offset the carbon footprint. That all then comes down into a system which contextual user engagement with gamification. We really need to find a better word for that. So electricity is not the most exciting thing in the world. Who knew? You know? But you want people to be engaged. So we've employed one of the world's leading gamification scientists. It's behavioural science, an area of behavioural science. Has anyone played Candy Crush? That addictive game? Yep. So it's all about finding what motivates people. When to make things hard, when to make things difficult, and to motivate them to continue along the journey. So where someone starts, which might be trying to save their cost as much as possible, once they've eked out all of those costs, then we'll say, hey, why don't we play the carbon footprint game? Let's try and get your carbon footprint down now. So this is the element of gamification, but it also learns your behaviours at home. We know when the stove and the microwave come on at 6 o'clock, you're cooking dinner. Probably not a good time to be sending messages to you. But when the TV comes on 45 minutes later, great time to get a message, because I'm just watching some TV. I may as well do something useful. So this is what contextual user engagement is about. It's sending information at the right time that's personalised for you. And then obviously we send that information out over Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G to your smartphone, and we have happy people.
And on that note, I'll jump in here, and I'm sure David. Thanks to both of you. We'll be still available for questions out where you can have another nibble on the snacks. Please finish them off and all the drinks. And thanks everyone for coming to the event tonight. Thanks again to the speakers.